It's fascinating, and it's one that's really hard to describe, but it's got fantastic dark academia vibes. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten. Today I'm doing some translated book recommendations. So these are a few books I've actually read and I really enjoyed, especially because we are doing the translated 24-hour readathon this month if you're taking part, and also just in general talk about some translated books that I think are just fantastic. So we have a bit of a mixed bag, but we're going to start off with some classics, which I have to admit that's the main portion of translated books that I've read. Starting off with the Iliad by Homer. So this is Greek mythology and this is translated from Greek, and there are so many different translations, so you can definitely have your pick. This one is by Anthony Verity and I really enjoyed this. So this is the Oxford World Classics edition. I thought it was fantastic. So for those of you that don't know, this one is all about the Trojan War. So this has taken place in the 10th year of that war, and you have different perspectives from gods and goddesses, what they're doing up in Olympus while this is all going on, who they're voting for, the fact that you can see their fickleness and everything with it all. And then you also have what's happening around Agamemnon and Achilles, their argument that they have, everything that happens with Patroclus. Like, it's just so well done. The only thing that I didn't enjoy about this is how repetitive it is, to the point where it repeats the exact same sentences over and over again. So that can be a little bit frustrating, but other than that, I really enjoyed this one. It did take me a little while to read. I think it took me about 2 months, but I was more than happy to take this slowly, and I do think when I reread it, it's going to stick with me a lot more, especially because I've read a lot more retellings based on this as well, that it's just going to really add to that experience. So yes, very much enjoyed this, would recommend. It is war poetry, but I do think it's worth the read. Then on a complete different track, we have Perfume by Patrick Susskind. This is quite a disturbing book. So this is all about someone who has an extraordinary sense of smell, like absolutely extraordinary, and he is on the quest to find the most beautiful smell. Unfortunately, this leads him to murder. And this is quite a just unusual book. So you're following him as he grows up, you're following him in his mental state as well, and it's just so unusual, very disturbing. So this one is German, and this is translated by John E. Woods, and it was something that I personally really enjoyed, and enjoyed is like the wrong word. I was fascinated by this and the depictions and just the horrorness of it all. So if you do like your darker horror literary fiction, then I do think this one is a good one for it. But yeah, very disturbing. Then we have The Mammoth Beast, that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, and this is Russian. So this is a Russian classic, and oh boy did it take me a little while to get into this one. So this one is translated by Louise and Almir Maud, and this is huge, absolutely huge, and it took me a while to get through it. I will say that I do think it's really well written, and there is also War and Peace, which is one that I have not tackled yet. I have not had the confidence to tackle that one, and I do think it is a beautiful depiction into just life in general, but there are some boring parts in here, specifically around farming. I found it so boring, but I did feel really accomplished reading this, and I liked the depiction of what it was like in Russia at that time from different perspectives, and just yeah, beautiful. And of course the actual love story that is in this book as well. So yeah, fantastic, beautiful edition. I actually would probably say I found this harder to read than the Iliad. I actually found the Iliad easier to read than Anna Karenina, just because there were points where I was reading it and literally falling asleep, namely the farming parts. But I do think it's beautiful, and to be honest, I do think I would reread this one. Like, I do find myself thinking about it, and even those farming parts, I think there is a lot that can be taken from them. So I think going into this slowly with a thought to analyse it rather than to just read it for enjoyment, I think I'm going to really like. Okay, so moving on from classics, we have a couple of just different fiction books. The one is being Cassandra by Krista Wolf. This is one that I recently read. It is German. It was translated by Jan van Hurich, and this was fantastic. So this is a Greek mythology mythology retelling, and this one is following Cassandra, who is the sister of Paris. She was gifted to have visions of prophecy but cursed by Apollo so that nobody would believe her, and this is just following her. This is written as a stream of consciousness. There are no paragraph breaks, there are no chapters or anything in this, but it's so fantastic, and one that I actually think the more I think about this, the more it's becoming a favourite of mine. It was so good. I loved it. It is taking place mixed up in the timelines of the Iliad. So the Iliad, obviously, as I mentioned, is in the 10th year of that war. Cassandra takes place across all of her life, so you do have events that are mentioned in the Iliad mentioned in this. I loved it. Greek mythology is like one of my new favourites. It was so well done. I really loved this book, and it's just an unusual look at that part of mythology that I just have not seen captured before, and having it from Cassandra's perspective on her own was fantastic, and it just did things in a slightly different way, and even everything that happened with Helen, all of it was unique. I'm not going to get too much into it because I do mention it more in my wrap up, but yeah, I loved this. Likewise, another one that I read recently is The Mad Woman's Ball by Victoria Mars. This is translated from French by Frank Wen, and this was so good. More people need to be talking about this one, please. This is a historical fiction book, but it's fantastic. So this is set in 1885 in Paris, in an actual asylum that was actually there at that time, and it's so well done. Again, I won't go too much into detail because I have mentioned it in my wrap up, but it's fantastic, and I think it's such an interesting look at women at that time, about the struggles that they had, the fear men had for women, the way that they then control them by putting them into this asylum, because they're just like, well, I can't control you normally, I'm going to put you in here, and because they are women, they do not have rights as much, like everything of their worth comes from men. It was just such a really hard look at things, but also fantastic. There are trigger warnings in this, so please do check them out before you go into it, but it is stunning, and I can't believe it's not talked about more. It deserves that hype that other books get. This is just so fantastic. It's another short one, and it packs so much into such a small book. It's so good. Again, another one that's going to be staying with me for a little while, a new favourite of mine. It's just fantastic. I could go on. I really could go on. Then we have two books that I read, but one of them was read by ebook, so that's why I haven't or was it audiobook, and that's Vita Nostra by Mariana and Sergei Dyachenko. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. And this is a dark academia, really unusual book, and at the time I finished it and I was like, that was really weird, I'm never going to read this again, but I keep thinking about it. So this is a Russian book. I loved it. It was so good. But again, at the time of reading this, like I remember in my reviews and stuff, like I was like, this was just really weird, I didn't understand what was going on and stuff. But like I say, I just keep thinking about it, and it was amazing. I would say, I mean, I can't say for certain because I haven't actually read Bunny to the end, but if you like the unusualness of Bunny, I feel like Vita Nostra has that, with that dark academic setting. We're following our main character, and she's got to set out to do this weird series of tasks. If not, her family's kind of put in danger, like it's inferred. And for every task she completes, she then coughs up this gold coin, and then she gets accepted into this prestigious school that's for really extraordinary people, and such unusual things happen there. It's fascinating, and it's one that's really hard to describe, but it's got fantastic dark academia vibes, and this is a book that I do think has dark academia. Like, it doesn't try and be like, oh, look at me, we're dark academia and it's just aesthetics. No, this is actual dark academia where it is questioning reality, it is doing things that maybe isn't ethical, and it's good. It's really good. So that's one that I actually want to get a physical copy of and reread, because I keep thinking about it. And then the other one is Kim Jeon, born 1982, and this is by Cho Nam Ju. This is a Korean book, and it's set in Korea. And it's all about this woman that feels so overwhelmed by society, by their expectations to be the perfect mother, to be the perfect person in work, like to try and juggle with their family expectations as well. Like, there is so much, and this makes her just kind of crack, and it's a look into her life, and again, it's one that is more just like free flowing, talking about stuff that's happened to her in the past and everything, and you just have a look at how societal expectations on a person can just break them. So fantastic book, really well written. I did read this one physically and then I donated it because it's not one that I think I would ever reread, although again, I've been thinking about it. This is the downside to me being so strict in the books that I keep, is that I then think to myself, oh, but I wouldn't mind rereading that one, and then I don't have it anymore. I have to admit, I did read this at a time before I was actually interested in contemporary. I was very much in my fantasy era, and now I'm kind of coming out of that into more contemporary and stuff, so I do think I would appreciate it more. But either way, I'm still pleased that I read it and I do recommend it. Yeah, I don't have it anymore, and even when I'm thinking about would I reread this, I think I would appreciate it, but it's not necessarily a new favourite like some of these are, but still very good. And then the last couple that I have, which is translated, is a massive actual section, and that is manga. Manga itself, on the whole, is translated from Japanese, and there are so many. I have a whole shelf dedicated to manga because it's something that I'm exploring. I find some that I really like and some that I don't like. I like them. I do see it as, I mentioned it actually recently because I had like an epiphany of what manga actually is to me, and it's like for me sitting down and watching a episode on TV, except in book format, and I really like them. So I've got two to show you. So I've got Moriarty the Patriot Volume 1, Sailor Moon Volume 1. Manga itself, as said, on the whole is translated anyway from Japanese, so this is a nice way if you're just not sure where you want to sit with translated books. You can always start off with some manga, because surprisingly, even for me, someone that I personally was like, oh, manga's not for me, my partner loved it, well, or loves it because he's always reading it, but I was just like, it's not really for me, and I actually have quite a few that I like now. These two being some of them, and this one is a kind of like a prequel to Professor Moriarty, who you see in the Sherlock Holmes books, and how he became the ultimate villain that he is. I really liked this one. I thought it was really well done, and I do want to carry on with the series. And then you have Sailor Moon, which is a complete opposite end to this, and this is more of a nostalgia book for me. I think if I picked up something similar to this now without having that nostalgia, I wouldn't enjoy it as much, but because I watched this growing up as a child, I absolutely loved this because of those nostalgia connections. And this one is literally a group of schoolgirls that are there to protect planet Earth, and they have different powers presented with different planets and stuff, or in Sailor Moon's case, the moon, and they fight off evil, and it's hilarious and tropey and silly, but I enjoy it. So manga is definitely a massive one to get you into translated books if you're interested. So I do hope I've given you a few to start off with, whether it's classics, manga, or even just general fiction books. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of something, but again, let me know of any translated books that you've read and enjoyed. I would love to check those out. I have quite a few on my TBR this month, so I'm hoping by the time this video comes out, because I'm actually filming it quite early in the month, that I would have read some of those and enjoyed them. So yeah, this list is hopefully going to be a growing list, but these are the recent translated books that I've read in the past year or so and enjoyed. There we go, that's it for today's video. A little bit of a shorter one, but I really wanted to do this book recommendations video, something a little bit different, and as I said, I hope you have all gained something from this. Okay, so let's go with the emoji for today so I don't keep rambling at you, and we're gonna go with, let's go with a moth emoji, because while this isn't a moth, is actually clocks, they are done in a way that it gives the illusion of a moth every single time. So let's put a moth emoji, because honestly, like I say, this book needs more love. It's fantastic. So a moth emoji for today, but I think for now I'm going to spare you for the massive ramble, and I'm gonna go. So thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do give it that thumbs up, subscribe, comment to let me know that you're here. Social media links will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the next one.